Nice to have you with us. Kicking off a broadcast day in snowy New York. Hi, everybody. Yours truly. Here in a great Sirius XM 82, Christopher Russo is along the way. Eddie Erickson and Colin Schmeling. After Steve Torrey and Danny Cannell broke down the NCAA tournament for the 19th time in 4 days. As we talked about what's going on. I'm kidding there, Stevie. Laugh. As we talked about what's happening as far as the world of sports is concerned on this Wednesday afternoon, the 21st day of March, 2018. Joe Buck will join us a little bit later on. We'll get something going with Joe. I haven't talked to him in a long time. We'll have some fun with him. I'm looking forward to that. So we got Mr. Buck here today as we take you home here on this busy afternoon as far as the world of sports are concerned. We'll save the NCAA tomorrow with Sweet 16 day with the matchups and everything else. No need to blow you over the head or beat you over the head with that all week. We'll get into the Nevada-Loyola game ad infinitum tomorrow afternoon. We'll look at, I think that's the first game up there on Thursday afternoon, and I'll believe the Rockets when I see them and have Golden State in trouble in a conference final. I mean, that's the bottom line about the Rockets. We'll spend some time on Houston in late May when they're up 2-1 with a game 4 in Golden State and the Warriors have to win. That's when I'll start to think the Rockets are a little different Rocket team than 2018. I think we'll start today with this idea. I mean, it's hard to believe. You know, it's 7 days. And I don't want to moan too much here because a lot of our audience is not in New York or Boston or Philly or Baltimore or Washington. And there's a lot of folks right now with the top down, driving down 5 in L.A. saying, what is he moaning and going about with the weather? Come out here. And I am coming. Mike in San Diego, the Russos are going to make a trip. And they're going to stay there. I don't know when, but it is on its way. Whether it's in Laguna, Newport Beach, La Jolla, I don't care. Downtown Los Angeles. This is going to end pretty quick. This weather's getting old here on 49th Street. Bottom line is, though, it is hard to believe we are 8 days away from the Major League Baseball season, and we got a snowstorm in New York City. Now, they may have blown this with the weather forecast. They basically said blizzard conditions all afternoon long, and everybody made it to work thinking blizzard, packed a bag. One guy who didn't was Bill. Bill bouncing around with the 4 dogs out there in the Home Depot out there on Long Island. Bull did not make it in, but everybody else, Colin Schmeling, Eddie Erickson, Steve Torrey, Mike Babchek, everybody else gritted their way through a bad day and got to work today, and away we have it now. But and again, it is hard to believe that the baseball season again starts at the end of March. Now, they started the baseball season earlier this year, about 4 days, and that's by design. They did that not because they're going to end the season any earlier. They did that because in the CBA, when the players were basically giving away the store, international pool money, draft pick compensation, free agents, and all that, they got the omelets cooked for them in the spring training clubhouse, and they got an extra 4 days to get themselves through 6 months of a 162-game schedule. So that is the reason why the season begins here on late March. Now, remember, baseball with the CBA about a year and a half ago now, the players and Tony Clark were very, very, very wrapped up in making sure that on bus trips through Florida spring training, they had their own seat and didn't have to share it with a teammate, and they had a chef at every clubhouse in spring training. So if if Ryan Zimmerman walked in at 7 a.m. and he wanted eggs Benedict or a thin version of French toast with sausage, they would make it bring it to his locker. And instead now they can't get anybody signed from a free agent perspective. Anyway, and that is the reason why in the CBA they obviously added the extra 3 or 4 games, 3 or 4 days off in a 162-game schedule. So that is why the season starts on a Thursday. It's the first time the season has started on a Thursday in a very long time. Normally the baseball season starts on the Monday, and it's rare because teams do not like to give up weekends. And remember, if you host early, which is what Toronto is going to do or the Mets are going to do, these owners, they do not like to give up weekends this early in the season. Weekends is when teams can make money, Families come out to the ballpark on a hot June Sunday afternoon. They watch a half an inning. They go play Pop-A-Shot. They stuff their little 8-year-old with ice cream, get a sugar fix, and leave. And they want those weekends free. They don't want to use one of those weekends. Every team gets 13 weekends, and they don't want to use one of those weekends up opening day, and that is why the season normally is started on Monday. So they have to give up an opening day weekend, the home teams, which they don't like. Also, if you go through the opening day schedule, as Evan Cohen, to get himself through 4 hours, did today. Evan knows nothing about baseball, but to get through the opening week schedule, baseball, which is, we've gone through this 1,000 times, there are many a team that, for whatever the reason, are playing another team that are either in two domes or in warm weather. In other words, Houston's playing Texas, all right? Okay. The Angels are playing the A's. All right. I mean, so there's a lot of those kind of matchups where we're going to freeze our rear ends off. You could not play baseball today. I mean, even Major League Baseball that plays in monsoons, even today they call it. So you could not play baseball in New York, Philly, Baltimore, D.C., Boston. You could not get a ball game in today. But, on opening day next week, they'd have to cancel this. And the bottom line is there's a lot of sites. If you look at the opening week schedule, Minnesota is at Baltimore, for instance. Two cold weather sites right out of the gate playing a ball game. Again, and then you have Houston to Texas. And I know it's not easy, 30 teams. I get all that. There's a interleague series. Cubs and the Marlins. I'm sorry, not the Cubs and the Marlins. Cubs are in Miami. There is an interleague series, the first series of the year. I'm not sure which one it is. I can think of it top of my head, but I don't remember which one it is. Giants are in L.A. Two basically warm weather cities. They play 4 games out of the gate. And again, it takes Einstein to figure out the baseball schedule. I mean, they have it's complicated. I understand that. It's very, very difficult, but they do some odd things. And that has always been a bugaboo for a lot of people. Why two warm weather cities are playing against each other in late March, opening day, or why, there's a lot of cold weather. For instance, there's an opening day in New York with the Mets. All right. There's an opening day in Cincinnati with the Pirates. There's an opening day in Baltimore with Minnesota. There's an opening day. The Nationals are playing somebody on opening day. I believe that they might be in cold weather. I don't have this. No, Cincinnati. So, where is Philadelphia? I thought they may have been in Cincinnati. Philadelphia is Atlanta. Philadelphia's in Atlanta. That's okay. So, Washington's in Cincinnati. Minnesota's in Baltimore. Cardinals are at the Mets. There's a lot of these spots that make you wonder. Detroit's got a home opener. White Sox are in Kansas City. They have Freeze. The Tigers are playing who? All right, so Pirates and the Tigers are in the league. And that's very confusing. You can't figure it out. Why they do that. But baseball right now, this is the time you get into baseball, but it's hard for me to break down over-unders, break down Giancarlo Stanton, break down Mike Trout. I'll go to those two things momentarily. It's hard to break that down when, it's the first day of spring and there's a blizzard out. Hard to break that down. And Torrey taking everybody out to dinner tonight at the Wendy's with the whole place locked in here at Sirius XM. It's strange. God, we got baseball in a week with this weather. So it is a little odd. So you got to keep that in mind, too. Now, as far as the Giancarlo Stanton and the Trout thing is concerned, there was a top 10 dominant list. They did teams, and ESPN, the magazine, did it. It was a sabermetician look at it, so it wasn't done by common sense. They didn't put postseason. They didn't differentiate postseason, regular season. So for some reason, Peyton Manning is 3rd and Tom Brady is 20. So and they did all the sports and they did all the international players too. So you got to keep that in mind. But somehow, some way, they put Trout at 18. Now, the most dominant athletes in the last 2 decades, and Trout is 18 of all the sports. So even Michael Schumacher's in there. Jimmy Johnson's in there. Federer's in there. Serena's in there. Tiger's in there. You name it. All the Brady Manning are in there. All the sport. LeBron's too. So all the sports are grouped in, and they got Trout at 18. I do not understand that. Bonds is at 17. Last 2 decades. Bonds should not be in there with steroids. He has no right to be in there. But again, they didn't use that. It was just a numerical process based on accomplishment and dominance. But I don't know how in the world Trout could be in there. They got Lauren Jackson. Who? What? Yes, she's 13. Don't ask me why. I never heard of her. They got Ronaldo at 14. They got Djokovic. All right, he won 1 million championships. If you're going to put the international athlete in there, I've never heard of Allison Felix. If you have, God bless you. She must be an Olympiad. Bonds we discussed. Anyway, Trout's 18. Trout's got no business being on 18 on any list. I know the Brian Kennys of the world and the Tom Verducci's of the world wax poetic on Mike Trout, and nobody's going to sit there and say that Trout's not a great player. He's won MVPs. He's been into candidacy every year. even when he breaks his tears a ligament in his thumb, he's in the top 2 or 3 in the voting after 6 months of baseball. And he's on a bad team, or he's on a team that has not won yet, so that plays into it. But, how is Mike Trout? This is a guy that won 1 for 12 in a postseason series. If you look at his September numbers, they're not nearly as good as they are through August. I mean, how is Mike Trout the 18th most dominant athlete in the last 20 years in international and American sport? That's just ridiculous. I mean, you can't. Come on now. I mean, I understand that, from a number disparity and the WAR quotient and all that, you can put him anywhere you want. But I mean, see, the problem that I have with Trout, and on the subject of baseball, is that Trout, who is compared to DiMaggio and Williams, the problem that I have with Trout specifically is I don't have anything that makes him an immortal. And he's great. He's 27 years of age. He's a great player, but I got nothing there that makes him an immortal. He has not done anything in the postseason. His teams do not make the playoffs. He has not done anything individually in the course of a long regular season. I mean, he's not hitting 56 consecutive games. He's not flirted with 400 like a Brett, Carew, Gwynn, trying to catch Williams at 406. He hasn't won a Triple Crown. I don't know exactly what Trout has done to get this kind of accolade, and now he's the 18th most dominant athlete in the last 20 years in sport. I mean, that's ridiculous. And the Angels have made one playoff in that period, and they got buried by the Royals in 3 straight games. So I don't understand that. The other issue that's interesting in baseball is Giancarlo Stanton. Anybody see that? Big story in SI this week, and Stanton, basically walked into a room with Jeter and Michael Hill. This was on December 5th. Ben Ryder wrote the story. It's a good one. And he walked into the Marlins managerial office in Miami on December 5th, a couple days before he was traded to the Yankees. And after being told that he had basically to choose either San Francisco or St. Louis to where he wanted to play and get traded to, because those are the moves that Miami made, Stanton said, no. I am not doing that. I'm not going to San Fran. He met both representations of the Giants and Cardinals. For whatever reason, the Giants with 3 championships and the Cardinals with 11 as a team, as a franchise, second in the history of the sport. Those were not good enough for him. And he told Jeter and Michael Hill, the general manager, these are the 4 teams I want to play for, and that is it. And basically he took control of the meeting, and he put Jeter and Michael Hill in a tough spot. So, and then he ended up with the Astros, the Cubs, the Dodgers, and the Yankees as his final 4. And then he got himself traded. So he used that no trade. And that's the essence of the story, that basically after the Marlins told him where he was going to go, he said, screw that. I'm not going there. I'm going to one of these 4. And the Yankees got in the mix after they lost Ohtani, which we know, and Ohtani might start the year in the minor leagues, and the Yankees and Cashman. Now, I'm surprised they afforded Judge this kind of respect, that the Yankees went to Judge and said, Aaron, do you have any problem if we bring Giancarlo Stanton in? They did that because obviously with Stanton, 4 goes into 3 as far as outfield spots are concerned, and obviously he's a right fielder, and there'll be the occasional DH scenario for Judge. He won't be out and right every day, robbing home runs with his 6'8" frame. And I asked Judge what he thought about that, and Judge did not have a problem with it. So that is the essence of the story. And the way I thought of it is this: Stanton, he's not going to start in the outfield opening day. Did you know that? He's going to DH. Gardner's in center, left, Hicks in center, and Judge along in right. And remember, opening days in Toronto, J.A. Happ will pitch the game for the Blue Jays. And he's a lefty, and Gardner's going to be in there, and he's not going to be, DHing anything along those lines. Now, the Yankees, I think, will make him happy and DH and rotate the DH spot, and Stanton will play his games in the outfield. But I wonder if Stanton realizes by picking the Yankees, at least if he had picked the Giants or Cardinals or gone there, he'd be in the outfield every day. He likes playing the outfield. And he turned himself into a pretty good outfield with the Marlins there in right the last couple of years. With the Yankees, he is not going to play right field. Judges. Can't move Judge, and he's not playing left. We saw him in spring training. He was awful. And left field at Yankee Stadium was a terrible sun field, and he ain't going out in left field. So they might make him happy long enough in 2018 to stick him in the outfield 50, 60 games because they don't want to lose him, and they want his bat, and they want him to be motivated. But when it comes to the big game, the huge game, barring injury, the big game. What the Yankees are going to do, especially in the postseason, their best defense is going to play the outfield, and they're going to let Stanton DH. I wonder if Stanton knows that. October 3rd, Yankees-Houston. We start a divisional series. He's the DH. Maybe then he'll think of San Francisco and St. Louis. And by the way, when we get there October 3rd with the wacky weather, we'll have a 90-degree day there, and it'll be a long way from the snowstorm on March 22nd, first day of spring. Eddie Erickson's in the house today. He stayed in New York City. He didn't like that. He's here. So is Colin Schmeling, who has decided to stay here. And Bill with the doggies out there at the Home Depot. We continue here on Mad Dog Unleashed right after that.